What's good, Kanekis? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. In this one, I'm going to be explaining what currency exchange rates are, what exactly they signify, and I'll be doing it through an engineering lens. I have an engineering background. That's just how I think about things. So you guys remember, I believe it was either earlier this year or last year. I did a video talking about investing in assets that are entropy proof. I will post a clip of it shortly. But it was showing a chart of gold versus all the other major currencies, the pound, dollar, and Japanese yen. And it showed how gold was stagnant, 100% value, while the other currencies were going down. I won't show the clip just yet, but I will show it once I'm done explaining the engineering analogy. So, what am I trying to explain with this? Well, with currency exchange rates, it's basically saying my currency is worth this, your currency is worth this. If I wanted to exchange my currency for yours, how much of yours would I get? So, for example, if the dollar was, let's say, the exchange rate between the pound to the dollar, I think is 1.5, but for round numbers to make it easy, let's say the exchange was £1 to $2. So if I wanted to exchange my pound sterling into dollars and I wanted to exchange, let's say £10, I would get $20. That's what exchange rates are. So the pound is twice as valuable as the dollar. That's what it means. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why that is not something to hold as gospel. Because when it comes to exchange rates, it can be very deceptive. So, like I said, if the exchange rate is 1 to 2, so £1 to $2, you would be mistaken to think that the pound is strong. So, if it were to go 1 to 3, so £1 to $3, you would think, oh, the pound is strengthening. No, no one is backed by nothing. So, we're looking at the first frame. The first frame is Earth's frame. So, this is something called projectile motion in physics. And this is the frame that we call an absolute frame. So you're seeing it from an outside perspective. We're going to model all the currencies as falling balls. So we have OA, object A, which is falling at 3 meters per second. Object B is also falling at 3 meters per second. And object C is falling at 5 meters per second. So from an absolute perspective, you can see all of them are falling. Every single one of them is falling. You wouldn't want to be standing underneath them because they're all falling. From object A's perspective, this is something called a relative frame. So from object A's perspective, it sees object B as stagnant. It's still because it is falling at the same rate, so they're all going down equally. So this is object A, this is object B, and they're all falling at the same rate, so they're all still. Object A is saying, "Oh look, object B is on my level. It's steady." It says object B is steady. I can move across and not feel any effects of the falling because we're all falling at the same rate. It's steady. If object A were to look at object C, it would say, "Oh, object C is actually the one that's falling. We're fine." It sees object C is falling faster because it's falling 2 meters per second faster. Object B will also see the same thing from its perspective. It says object A is steady, but object C is falling faster. What does object C see? I know that sounded weird. What does object C see? So from its perspective, it sees object A and object B as moving upwards. So, and this is because it's falling at 5 meters per second. A and B are falling at 3, so it's falling faster. So the distance between C and A and B would be increasing over time, right? So what does this mean in currency terms? Well, if a currency is losing value faster than another currency, like I said, the pound would see the dollars losing value faster. So in reality, it's the other way around. But just because I'm in the UK, the pound would see the dollar losing value faster. So people who are holding pound sterling would say, "Oh, our currency is doing better because we can get more dollars for our currency." and they'll be led into a false sense of security, like, oh, we're fine. Is the dollar holders who are suffering? They're the ones losing. We're fine. People who are holding gold are saying, nah, your house is also on fire. So gold would be the observer. People who are holding gold would be observing things from the Earth's frame, the absolute frame. This is where I play the video. Let me show you exactly why you should not be saving in fiat currency. Now, this is a 45-second video. Credit to WinSmart on Twitter. By the way, follow me on X. I often retweet these graphics as I see them, so be sure to follow me there. So I'm just going to let it play. Gold as a store of value. As you can see, gold has kept its value 100%, and all these currencies are falling against gold. The yen is just tragic. But look at that, 1970. I'm just going to pause it here. About 1970, that's when Nixon basically took the dollar off the gold standard. And notice how quickly it drops. I'm going to take it back just a bit. Just a bit. Look at how it's constant. Constant. Bang. 1970 arrives. And they start printing to infinity. Just watch how it drops. Keep going. Gold is still. That's basically gold keeping its value. 100%. Now look at how all the other currencies are dropping. All dropping. Watch when 2008 comes. That's a global financial crisis. But wait for 2020. Wait for 2020. There you go. Look at that. The dollar has about 0.31% of its original value. So as you can see, gold was steady, 100% value, the absolute frame. All the other currencies were falling, and you can see they were falling at different rates. So the Japanese yen was already all the way down there. That was the one. Let's call that object C. So object C was a Japanese yen falling much faster, losing value much faster. If I remember correctly, the dollar was, well, the pound and the dollar were more or less losing at the same rate, and then the pound lost it faster. And this has implications on the economy. Particularly, the people who would be most sensitive to currency exchange rates would be importers, exporters, because they're the ones dealing with other currencies. Why this is important is because I've talked about GDP being a faulty measure. A lot of, well, many countries look to GDP as a way to measure their country's wealth. And within the GDP calculation, it basically says exporting is a better thing than importing. So it subtracts import from the GDP total. And export is a positive for the GDP total. So why is this important? Well, if your currency is falling faster than another currency, it is cheaper to export. Because the foreigners who are buying your goods can exchange their money for more of your money and buy the good. So this is something that incentivizes governments to debase their currency. It incentivizes them to reduce the value by printing the currency. It's something China has been doing. China's M2 money supply has absolutely ballooned. It is ridiculous. America now wants to do that, to do the same. So when you hear about Trump talking about bringing manufacturing back to the States so they can become another manufacturing powerhouse, they're basically saying we want to debase our currency. JD Vance has talked about the merits of having a weaker dollar. It's a policy. It's a policy. I mean, besides the fact of the reduced value of the currency, helping with debt payments. This is another thing, is to promote exports. So what this does is it actually harms the people who are saving in the currency. It also harms importers. So usually the importers would be the local citizens, people buying goods from abroad. And the other element is people in developing countries. The idea typically in these countries is that the dollar is strong because they're comparing the dollar to their currency. So when they see that the dollar, like their currency is losing value against the dollar, they all rush to the dollar because they're like, oh, the dollar is actually, they don't see it like this. They say, oh, the dollar is getting stronger. They say the dollar is getting stronger. The dollar is still falling. Remember the analogy. They're all falling. The dollar is still falling. They're like, oh, the dollar is getting stronger. our government isn't doing a good job. I suppose that is true. But then they then hype up the dollar like, oh, the dollar is strong, let's run to the dollar. But they're missing the point that they should be running to gold. They shouldn't even be running to the dollar. Run to gold, because if your currency is losing value against the dollar is also losing value against gold. Why don't you just magnify your gains by going straight to gold? It's not rocket science. It's generally not rocket science. Just magnify your gains by going to gold. But then again, buying gold is not to increase your wealth. Yes, it might add to it, but you don't really buy it to increase your wealth. You buy it to store it. But even storing your wealth, because all the other currencies are going down, if you're just there standing back, or let's change the frame of mind. Let's talk about it in terms of skydiving. Gold is the helicopter, or gold is the pilot in the helicopter. He's not falling. He's feeling fine. He's on steady. He's at a steady height. All the other currencies are going down. Aren't you in a better shape in the helicopter than if you were falling without a parachute? I'll let you guys think about that one for a second. If this video doesn't convince you to go out there and buy some gold, I don't know what will. Remember that the key thing to remember is that all the currencies are falling, especially the dollar. People see the dollar as good as gold. It hasn't been since 1933, and definitely not since 1971 when Nixon cut the ties to gold, and all the other currencies were tied to the dollar as well. So they all lost that link to gold. I know it's not a good thing to add another point right in the conclusion, but I will say the whole point about exchange rates is that in the past, when all currencies were tied to gold, let's say $1 would give you, well, I prefer using whole numbers when I'm explaining. So let's say $1 would give you 2 ounces of gold. Theoretically, $1 gives you 2 ounces of gold. £1 gives you 4 ounces of gold. So keeping it the same, £1 giving you 4 ounces of gold means that the pound is twice as strong as the dollar that gives you 2 ounces. That is where you get your exchange rates from. But because the whole every currency was depegged from gold, now they're all just floating against each other. This is where the relative frame comes in. But I hope you enjoyed it. I haven't been doing finance or economics videos for a while now, because it just got me a bit depressed. I can't lie. Things going on with politicians. I know that now that everything they do is just messed up. You would understand what I'm talking about if you watch some of my other videos, especially the one about choosing government over God. But I'll try to do more that's educative, helping people understand what's going on, as opposed to just complaining about their policies. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope it explained what exchange rates are. Share this video out to anyone who believes their currency is doing better than another, because hey, look, you're all falling out of the plane. You're all falling out of the plane if you're not holding gold or silver. Silver is shot up lovely. Oh my goodness. If you're not holding either of those two, you are falling. Please remember that you are falling. So share this out. It is a way to help people understand the financial game that is going on currently. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please hit the like button, subscribe as well if you're new and you aren't already. Check out some of the others in the playlist. I've done over 50 videos on economics, so check them out. They're very useful, timeless videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.